That's right, we're back. Happy new season, everybody. Now, I've got to say, it was a wonderful summer of women's football. England winning the Euros yet again was a dream come true. And I'm happy to say the WSL is back this Friday. For myself and Uma, it's like we've not skipped a beat. Have we really had any time off? I don't think so, but who cares? Uma is joining me. Uma, how are you doing? Have you had a break? It's deadline day for you. I'm sure not.
Not quite. No, do you know what? I'm still riding the high of England defending their title at the Euros. You and I were together, weren't we? I'm still not over it, and I'm so excited that the WSL is back. I feel like I've been missing like a part of my heart this whole summer. So yeah, it's really exciting. And God, what a weekend! I was looking at the fixtures earlier. Every single game is just incredible. Merseyside Derby, Chelsea City, Arsenal versus London City Lionesses. I can't wait. But we have to talk about something which has also been really exciting, the transfer window. I feel like it's been the most active WSL transfer window I've seen for a long, long time. So many places we could start, but not because we're both Arsenal biased at all. Feels right to start with a positive bit of news. Someone close to my heart, of course. I always go on about how I tipped her to be a really good player. Olivia Smith has become the first £1 million player. How are you feeling about that? Are you surprised? I was.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on because you've been singing her praises for a long, long time. A long time. So fair play to you, Uma. I've always seen there's a player in there, but like I feel like this has happened very quickly. She had almost one good season at Liverpool, and then they've kind of taken her. And also Arsenal was stacked, which has obviously meant Michelle Adjumant's gone back on loan to Brighton. Am I surprised that she's cost 1 million? No, because I think once you start to see Naomi Girma going for that price, then I think, whenever, say, for example, Trinity Rodman decides to go somewhere or Sophia Wilson decides to go somewhere, that's when I think the money will continue to increase. So we've done many shows, haven't we, about when was the first of £1 million player going to come? And I think she's a fantastic signing. I'm intrigued to see where she's going to play. She will play, but where?
Yeah, that's the question. And I suppose that leads into Adjumang. And you know what? I was surprised, but I think more just because I always thought that the women's game, it would take somebody who was kind of proven and had been doing it for many seasons before a club went, okay, we're going to pay 1 million. I'm so pleasantly surprised that Arsenal have gone, this is a player with great potential. Let's show the money now because we can develop her into something amazing. Whether that happens this season, we will see. But they have, reloaned Michelle Adjumang to Brighton. A huge shock for many people, I think, after what we saw from her at the Euros. I actually understand this deal. I'm not sure you'll maybe agree with me on this one, but I think, yes, she's a great player, but Arsenal are so stacked right now. Isn't it better to have her playing every week at a club like Brighton, who are doing good things, and then bring her back in when maybe they have a bit more space in there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one because I'm sure this deal was already done before the Euros. So therefore, it's like no one expected her, to go there and do as well as she did. Serena Wigman did. Catherine Batty on our show did. She was saying that she was going to be the wild card about 6 months before Michelle Germain got selected for England. And I was like, really? I didn't really quite see it. I get the playing every single week, every minute, but I just think at Arsenal, like, couldn't she be that player coming off the bench? Couldn't she be that player that could start? So it's interesting because you can't not sign Olivia Smith, but I would have loved to have seen Michelle Adjumang, at Arsenal. I know she's only gone on loan, but like to keep riding that wave because I have the feeling that I hope she doesn't go on loan to Brighton and kind of fade away. Not herself, but like the type of club, the fans, those types of things. So I hope Michelle Adjumang does come back to Arsenal eventually and, has a fantastic career. But it's like, you've got Alessia Russo. You've got even Stina Blackstenius is still there, which I thought she was going to move on. Now Olivia Smith, Marina Caldente. Like, the list could go on. Like, where are these players going to play?
Yeah, it just means they absolutely have to win the WSL this year, by the way, which, you know what? I'm going to say it. I feel like it's their year. I said that last year, didn't I? But anyway, let's talk about a team who I think if you could win the transfer window, the prize absolutely would go to the London City Lionesses. What a summer they have had. I'm going to list a few players here, but I could go on. Nikita Paris, Daniela van der Donk, Alana Kennedy, Katie Zellem, Elena Linari, Jana Fernandez. The list is endless. It sounds great. It looks great on paper. Do you think they are going to be as effective as this transfer window implies when they start the season?
I mean, I think they'll stay up. And I think that's the positive. I'm not saying they're going to start creeping up the table, making Champions League spots. There's no need to get carried away. I think the one signing that does stick out for me is Van der Donk. Like, she is, and I think the fact they've got a lot of experienced players that have been there, done that in the WSL, I think that's really important because I think on the show last year, same time, I said Crystal Palace were going to be okay. We all kind of did, didn't we? and they wasn't. They got battered in their first game against Chelsea. So, and they didn't have a great year. Michelle Kang always puts her money where her mouth is. And I think these signings make sense to me. And I'm really excited to see how they fare against Arsenal because they're giving it a good go. And this is what we've asked for, isn't it, Uma? We don't want the same teams like Bristol City came up, went straight back down. Crystal Palace came up, went straight back down. If there's no investment financially, then that's what will continue to happen. So I'm excited for this London City Lionesses to see what they can do this year. I'm not getting carried away, but I think they'll be okay. I think they're going to stay up. And then we'll have to see after the first few games how well they will do.
So, Leanne, we're not quite at deadline day yet for the WSL, but is Beth Mead maybe missing out on something big here if she doesn't go to the London City Lionesses?
Yeah, I mean, I love Bev. She's a good friend of mine. I think she's a top person, top player. It doesn't have to necessarily be London City Lionesses, but that's obviously where she's been linked to. I think, obviously, Chloe Kelly coming to Arsenal last year on the loan from Man City, now making it permanent. Beth wasn't playing. And that's kind of what happened to England as well, wasn't it? And I felt for Beth because it doesn't look like she's going to play. Now, in pre-season, she's played a lot more. They even made her captain the other day. So I think if Beth really wanted to leave, she would have already left. Now, there could be a last-minute thing we might see. There's still time in this window. So I am quite surprised she hasn't left because this will start to affect her England selection. Similarly to how it affected Chloe Kelly, where Serena Wiegman, remember she put Chloe Kelly on standby because Chloe wasn't playing at City. So maybe Renee Segers has said to Beth, you know, it'll be different to last year. I don't know, but I love the fact she stayed because I love Beth and I love that she's at Arsenal. But I do think that she could get in any other team in the WSL, genuinely.
Yeah, you know what? I never want to see a world where Beth Mead doesn't play for Arsenal, but I do think from a player perspective, go to this exciting new team, be their landmark player, play every week, and perhaps, you know, maybe in a few years, do something incredible with this, you know, the first independent team in the WSL. I really think that Beth Mead might be missing out on a trick here, but we will see. Like I say, a couple of days left. And speaking of rumours and deadline day moves, Grace Clinton has been linked to Man United. At first, when I saw this, I was thinking, what? Why is she leaving behind Champions League to go to Man City, who haven't got Champions League, who've been struggling? But the more you think about it, the more actually maybe this move makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And it's interesting because in the men's game, you never see, apart from Carlos Tevez, you know, going from City to United, doesn't really happen historically. But I think obviously Alex Greenwood's done it before. This one does make sense to me because she hasn't played that much. Like going into the Euros, and I don't know, there was this moment where she obviously got selected for England, scored on her debut when they were in Spain in those friendlies. And then it was almost like her not playing at Man United. Everyone was thinking, when she wasn't in the lineup, is she injured? And she wasn't. And it was really, really strange, like what Mark Skinner was doing with her. So this would make sense to me. I think it would be massive devastation if she does leave Man United and go to City because she will no doubt strengthen this City team and will leave another, you know, hole in the midfield of Manchester United. But I don't know, this one does feel like it does make sense to me.
Yeah, I have a feeling this one is going to go through. And another thing I know you're keen to chat about, obviously you're out in the States at the moment covering the NWSL, really exciting. But we chatted the other day about Morgan Gatrout, who signed for Newcastle, but she actually has kind of retired from the NWSL, so she's not going to be playing there anymore to make this move. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it was an interesting one because it was an interesting announcement because it was like, you've retired from the NWSL. Like, why would that be necessary to say that? It doesn't really make any sense to me. Now, going to Newcastle does make sense because they're on the up. You know, you can see it's clear. We've had Amber Keegan-Stubbs on the show before. They're clear in what they're trying to do. And, you know, they're investing a lot of money. They're getting a good crowd. But the announcement of, like, retiring from the NWSL, I just thought was quite strange. But good luck to Morgan Gautrat. You know, her husband is actually the manager of the Houston Dash over here as well. So a lot of people were thinking she was going to go back to Houston. But, yeah, to do an announcement saying you're retiring from the league, obviously she's retiring at the end of the season, it's quite strange.
Yeah, it seems like she's ruled out any possibility of going back there in the future. Another one I wanted to talk to you about. This has been a really hotly debated topic recently. Your former manager, Matt Beard, he left Burnley in order to have discussions about possibly taking over at Leicester a week before the start of the season. It's attracted a lot of criticism, divided opinion. You know Matt Beard really well, and you know the league really well. Burnley obviously are disappointed to have been left short so close to the beginning of the season, but what do you make of it?
Yeah, I think there's going to be more to come from this, to be honest, because I don't think what has been announced is what kind of meets the eye. I'm not saying I know any inside information because I don't, but it doesn't make sense. Like Matt Beard, regardless of whether he's a good friend of mine, he's a top coach. He's always done well wherever he's gone. I thought it was weird that he got sacked from Liverpool when he did, although he came on our show 2 days later and was almost very honest in saying, maybe that was the right decision. I personally don't think it was. I think he was getting the best out of the players and the roster and the team that he had. Then he's gone to Burnley, which I thought was a strange one in itself, because as we know, Jonathan Morgan was there previously as well. That tenure didn't last very long either. So I think there'll be more to come from this. And the fact that he was linked to Leicester as well, that isn't actually concrete facts. It's just something that was gaining a lot of coverage on social media. So the fact that he's only been there for 2 months and he's already left, if he doesn't take over Leicester, then that's kind of a strange one, isn't it? And it also, why did Leicester not approach him from a couple of months ago at the end of the season, because he was available then, if that is the case? So I do think we'll have to watch this space, and I think more is going to come from this.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it's worrying for Leicester, who, a couple of days before their opening game are left, sacking their manager after just one season. It's such a strange time to make that decision. Really worried for them. But I also have to say, and this is going to be a bit of a rant, Lianne, because there is one club in the WSL that I'm really quite disappointed in this transfer window. And more so because I've been working on the Premier League deadline day today. I've seen how much business Liverpool have done on the men's side. It's been outstanding the way they've conducted the business. They've broken records, not once, but twice. And they've just been completely flawless. And yet you look at the women's side, and yes, I know they sold Olivia Smith for £1 million. That's great. You brought in a huge amount of money, but where has that money gone? Where have you reinvested it? You can't have your men's team defending a Premier League title and at the same time your women's team is just fallen off. You broke into the top 4. Support that with investment. Like you say, sacking Matt Beard seemed just absolutely crazy to us, I think. And I'm really, really considering the possibility now that Liverpool could be relegated from the WSL this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great shout, Uma. And it was interesting because when we spoke to Matt Beard a couple of days after he got sacked, he was sitting in that beautiful office. Sorry, when he did our show before he got sacked, he was sitting in that beautiful office. They was talking about the facilities. He was talking about how Jurgen Klopp, and Arne Slot were kind of having that connection. Because I know previously there wasn't that connection with the men's team. And it was when the women's team were winning the WSL. As we know, under Matt Beard, in his previous tenure, they won it twice. So I completely agree with you. The fact that the men's team are doing bits in the transfer window, doing more than bits, has been fantastic for them. And the fact they haven't done anything really in the women's transfer window is quite strange. They're a massive football club. They can attract players. And ultimately, players will go where the money is. Like, yeah, there is loyalty, but the money is where the loyalty is now in the women's game. That's the reality. So it has been really disappointing. I don't think they will go down based upon, I think Leicester will, genuinely. I don't think Leicester, I mean, it'll be, a real close call down there. It really will. And I agree with you about Liverpool. They have done nowhere near the levels of quality of players that they're bringing in addition to the players they've already got. Like, if Alana Kennedy and Katie Zellum, I know Katie Zellum was at Liverpool previously, are going to London City Lionesses, why can't they get those types of players back? Like, why can't Alana Kennedy sign for them? If they're signing for London City Lionesses, there's no reason why they can't go to Liverpool. So, yeah, poor from them.
Yeah, at this rate, Liverpool-Leicester, those 2 games this season are going to be huge for both teams because honestly, it could come down to something as small as that. Finally, before we go, I wanted to talk to you about this interesting situation that we've got. In the WSL, the transfer window shuts before the season closes, which to me seems very logical. You sort out your squad and then you play your season. That doesn't happen in the men's game. And we've kind of seen the effects of that with players going on strike, not wanting to play. What's your take on that as a player? What effect does that have?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think as a level playing field that we want it to be in the women's game, and it isn't because other teams have more money, and I'm all for that. If Chelsea have got a lot of money and they want to bring players in, then good luck to them because it's up to other teams to kind of step up. I think I prefer the fact that it closes because then what happens is you're going into the season, and maybe as a player I might feel differently, but you're going into the season and you're like, oh, what do we need now? Look at what happened to Nicholas Jackson at Chelsea. He's gone to Bayern Munich and he's ended up having to come back again. Do you know what I mean? So we don't want situations like that. But from a player's perspective, it also might be, you get into the first couple of games of the season, you're like, actually, the manager isn't having me. So personally, I think it's better that it closes because I think it makes it a more even playing field in the women's game because I think we need to close that gap between the top 4 and the bottom already in itself.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, but yeah, something that's come up because, you're seeing the 2 deadline days in 1 week, but it also means that the WSL is almost here. I cannot wait, Lianne. I will be back next week to chat about all the games. I'm sure Arsenal will have won the season already by then, right?
Oh, do you know what? My head and heart are telling me 2 different things, Uma, because I'd love for Arsenal to win, everything this year. But I just think still Chelsea are that team to beat. Thanks so much, Uma, for joining me.
Thank you, Leanne.